Hi there, this is the first of several videos about interpretation and phrasing in Bach suites. I'm going to start with the Prelude to the G major suite, the first suite, which I think is something that most cellists want to play at some point. There are a lot of considerations here. I'm not going to talk too much technically. I do already have a video about string crossings in this prelude if you want to go look at that for some technical information about how to use your bow during string crossings in this piece. But I'm going to mostly talk about how to figure out how the pacing goes. There are a million answers to that. This is just my, not even my answers, but my guidelines to help you figure out what you want to do. So, a couple of things. First of all, the downbeat reigns supreme. The bar line is there to show you where the strong beat is, which is always going to be the downbeat in Bach, and for sure in this piece. We're in 4/4, which means that the middle of the bar, the third beat of the bar, is also important. However, if you look at the first 4 bars, you will see that the same thing repeats. In other words, the first 2 beats are the same as the third and fourth beat of all those 4 bars. And if we play the first note long or with emphasis, which is what I'm going to suggest, if you repeat that, it gets really tedious. So first I'm going to give you an example of too tedious, because I'm going to sit on this G a bunch every single time. So that was the too much version, as I think you'll agree. A note about bowings. You may have heard this information already, that we don't know about what the original bowings were. We have no manuscript in Bach's hand. We have a couple of contemporaneous manuscripts and then later editions, and every single one of them is different. So a lot of editions have the first 3 notes slurred in these patterns. And by the way, I hope you do have a decent edition that already has fingerings and bowings in it. I'm assuming that you have your fingers somewhat under control here. This is not really a video about how to put your fingers on the notes, but rather how to interpret the phrasing. So if you are in a beginning stage, you may need a little bit more work before you can apply some of this. But I actually learned it with lots of slurs, with 8 notes slurred, and I like it that way. And since we don't know what the original bowing was from Bach, I think that that's a valid way to play it. However, I will alternate. In this video, I will sometimes do the version that has 3 notes slurred and then separate, because a lot of people will have that edition. So here's a version of those first 4 bars. What I'm going to try to do this time is I'm going to try to pull my bow longer on the downbeat to give it a little bit of emphasis, but then I'm not going to do that in the middle of the bar, even though that's the same passage, same pattern. We don't want to hear it constantly. So I'm going to do just the downbeats. Okay, so then what I was thinking about that time, in addition to playing the downbeats a little bit long, was that I tried to do them not the same. I tried to emphasize all of them, but in a different way. And one of the things that we look for in Bach is, where is there tension? So tension means when there's a chord that has dissonance in it. So dissonance is something like an F sharp and a G against each other. That's dissonance. This would be consonance. A G and a G. A G and a D, because those are pleasant, they sound like they belong in chords, but this F sharp against G does not really sound like it belongs in a chord. So that is a dissonance, and it has more tension in it. And we have different ways that we can deal with tension. I don't always deal with it by sitting on it, but a lot of times I do. So when I look at these first 4 bars, what I see is, and here comes some theory for you, G major, which that's a very happy, lovely consonant chord, C major, with a G on the bottom, something dissonant, doesn't matter what you call it, I'm going to call it dissonant right now, and then G again. There's my octave. So this last bar, that fourth bar, is kind of the most relaxed bar, because there I am back in my G major. There's nothing new here. We're just where we think we're going to be. The third bar is the bar that has the most dissonance. So I'm going to play this again. I'm going to do it with slurs this time, and I'm going to try and really bring out that third bar by playing longer on the downbeat, maybe a little emphasizing my F sharp. Okay, so I went a little bit farther that time. I did a bit of a crescendo, a little bit of an arch shape, going from the beginning to the third bar where that dissonance happens, and I try to a little bit enunciate as if I'm speaking slowly for that particular chord. Okay, so then I'm going to go on. So I come back to the fourth bar where I have my consonant G major nice chord. And watch out at the end of bar 4. I hear so many recordings where people get excessively slow there. We're really at the beginning of the piece. It's a piece that's a piece is full of motion. It really is a piece that rolls along. Don't get too stuck at the end of bar 4 as you're going into bar 5. But bar 5 is, for those of you who want to know things about theory, it is E minor, which is the relative minor of G major. So it's a pretty important place to be, and it definitely has more tension than bar 4. So I'm going to do 4 into 5 again. So here we have the chords that I just went by, and the bars that I just went by have different patterns. So from bar 5, I land a little bit in that bar 5. It's sort of an E minor, but it doesn't have E on the bottom. I know this is a lot of theory. I still have a G pedal. So I've had a G pedal at the beginning. First bar, second bar, third bar, fourth bar, fifth bar still has that G pedal the whole time. Our ear is still hearing it. All of a sudden here, so bar 6 is the first bar that doesn't have a G pedal. You can play bar 6 loud. You can play bar 6 soft. This is a bar that works. It's a transitional bar. It's not a bar that's a sitting bar. It's a bar that's a moving bar. This is a bar that says go to the next bar. So you can sit on it, you can make it move through. You don't have to really do a whole lot with bar 6. It sounds nice to play the downbeat kind of strong, but then move on through. Bar 7. And so that's a moving bar that doesn't have a lot of downbeats, bass note kind of stuff in it, right? It doesn't have the low pedals that we were having earlier. So I don't think you need to do a lot except go through it. But then we come to bar 8. Here's our E minor again, at this time with the E on the bottom. Also, it's the lowest note that we've had so far in the piece, and that is important in Bach. Highs and lows are definitely places we want to kind of have more strength. So I find bar 8 is a place that I want to kind of sit on a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go now. I'm going to switch to the not so much slur version, and I'm going to come from bar 5 and go through bar 8. So this is a little bit abrupt, but I'm going to stop here because this has already been about 10 minutes long, and I want these videos to not be extensively long. I'm going to continue this, and there will be more videos, probably at least 2 or 3 more on this prelude, but you can use these kinds of ideas that have already come up at the beginning of this to see how you feel about more of the bars, and find the tension, find the release, find the places that it flows, and I'll go through more of the patterns in the next video. Have fun!